We're pleased to have here for the first time on this show as an NFL head coach, longtime coach of The Ohio State, and he left the warm embrace of a television studio job to dip his toe in the National Football League waters. The head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Urban Meyer. How are you, Coach Meyer?
Rich, always good to talk to you, man. I'm doing good.
Always good to talk to you. What if I had told you that night of the NFL draft in Chicago, where you were on the end of the set as the head coach at The Ohio State, that one day you would be the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, coaching Trevor Lawrence? What would you have said if I had told you that on that day?
I would have looked at you like you had 4 heads or 5 heads, and we would have, I'm sure, went and talked about Zeke Elliott or something.
Right. I mean, it is
crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy. Do you? How have you found it so far? The NFL.
Oh, I just love our owner. I mean, the owner, and I love Jacksonville. I always have, and I, had this kind of a dream when this conversation started, and I obviously we're starting. I don't want to say we're starting at ground zero because that's not fair. There's some really good players here. There's some great people here, but we're going to try to build something really special, and it's impossible without a Shad Khan. You just can't. I can't say I'm well versed in the NFL yet, but I'm pretty well versed in building things, and what we're trying to build here is going to be very unique, very special. And we had a nice announcement today.
Right.
What he's trying to do for this city, Jacksonville. I don't know, Rich, if you spent much time there. What a place. What a city. These people want to win, and we got to put something really good on that field. Yeah,
I mean, I've been to the stadium. I've kind of done it all. I covered the Super Bowl there in year 2 of NFL Network. I'll be honest. I hit a 7-iron into the middle of the field during halftime of an NFL Network Jacksonville Jaguars game with Jackson DeVille. I was the toughest golf shot I've ever hit because there were human beings there, Coach. I mean, my gosh. And I've been to the town, and I know how diehard the fans are there in Duval County. And I did see what you tweeted out today, for some artist drawings and renderings of a new facility, and then a hotel that's being built out of 4 Seasons, if I saw that correct. So how do you build a culture? How does one do that? I know you've done TED Talks, you've written books, you've done all sorts of stuff. But how do you do it? What do you do when you do something like this?
Well, first you have to, I always tell people, when you put together a culture, you got to believe it. It's got to be an objective truth. Players and everybody are too smart. When you start talking about a culture drives behavior. And when you tell people something, it's got to be true. And what I mean by truth is I really believe effort overcomes mistakes. I really believe that greatness is hard. You have to embrace the grind of greatness. And I believe love and ownership are the greatest forms of team. If you have those 3 qualities, that's something we developed over the years. It's been fairly well time tested. I think it's time tested through just being a human being. Those are the qualities of greatness. And these guys have listened. It's all to be determined. That all sounds great, but that is our culture. And that's, the relentless effort. I didn't say be fearless. Don't worry about making mistakes because you're going to make a bunch of them. The second thing is embrace the pain of greatness, because it is hard. You don't think it's hard, then you never experience greatness. And then the last one, you better own this place. If you don't own Jacksonville, this is not something that you really love and own. We'll help you move on somewhere else because you don't need to be here.
And why do this? Why would you leave? I mean, there's nothing more. You win every week when you're talking on television. Like it's a W. And I do remember, even with the immense success that I know firsthand, as you know, about what the Ohio State was doing, that there were times where, you were holding your head. It did not look like things were going enjoyably. So why do what you've done, Coach Meyer? Why do that?
That's a question of questions. I've been asked that a lot. I've been asked by some that are very close to me. But those who know me really well knew that I think probably had one more swing. Had some chances maybe to go back to college, but that ship has sailed, and I didn't want to do that again. The recruiting and all the time spent and all the stuff that's going on in college football, that I just was so intrigued by this owner. I was intrigued by Jacksonville. And then this was a year. One thing about this, Rich, this is not necessarily Jacksonville, but just studying NFL and thought, man, if you could just somehow find a way to win some games in the NFL and take this culture blueprint that we've worked on for so hard and surround yourself with, players that buy into it and they want to win and they want to do it the right way. It just became overwhelmingly I wanted to do it, and that's why we did it.
Urban Meyer here on the Rich Eisen Show. It also helps to have somebody who's as remarkably talented as Trevor Lawrence be essentially assured, if you so chose, to take him top the draft, and you did. What have you learned about Trevor that you might not have already known from seeing him in college and knocking maybe on his door in college and covering him in college? What have you learned about him?
Yeah, I knew Trevor, not personally, but I knew him a little bit. We shook hands and said hi a few times. Obviously, I'm very close with Coach Sweeney. I know Clemson very well, from my TV days and also coaching days. Great respect for the program, but, you just don't know. You don't know until you know. And here he comes. We weren't allowed to talk to him during the process in person. We did a bunch of Zoom calls with him. We did a bunch of phone calls with him, a bunch of research. There's no way that the cool thing about this, Rich, is that everybody had speculation he was going to be the number one pick, and so did our owner. And I hired two guys with really extensive NFL experience in Schottenheimer and Bevel, and we went on a good 4 to 5 week deep dive into. There are some excellent quarterbacks out there in this NFL draft. You're going to see a bunch of these guys play for a long time, and we can't miss this one. So, in our very strong opinion, obviously, he earned the right to be the number one pick, and since he's been part of our organization, he's been an A+. His work ethic, his community involvement, his humility in front of the veterans, it's been a lot of fun to watch this develop.
And what about the pre-draft conversation, certainly in our world, maybe as we were bored waiting for the draft to actually take place, about his comments that from his coach, he wouldn't need football, his high school coach, doesn't really need football in the end and in the long run, and potentially his lack of losses in the world, not having a chip on his shoulder, and that might not suit him for the NFL game. I don't subscribe to that, but I just wanted to put that general conversation in front of you, Coach Urban Meyer, now that we're clear of the draft.
Yeah, Rich, I'll be honest with you, when I first read it, I was a little bit like probably the world, like, wait a minute, let me read this again. And then I did have a conversation, and we had a long conversation, and he told me the story that it was hours upon hours of interviews and with whoever wrote the story, and then it wasn't a reflection of what actually, there's some certain things that were said, and I've coached players, I'd like to believe I am too, as well, that are deep in their faith, and your faith tells you not to serve other than one God, and that's he lives that. And football is not his God, is the message he wanted to get out. But he's as competitive as you can get. He loves the game. There's no hesitancy on our part. But I remember reading that, and you can imagine my phone blowing up, and what in the world's going on here? Does he eat, breathe, and sleep football? And is he, can he compete? Does he want to compete? And those answers are those questions all been answered for his body of work since he's been playing.
A few more minutes left here with Urban Meyer, head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, here on the Rich Eisen Show. And you spent time in the media, as again we've mentioned in this conversation. So with that as the setup, not to pat myself on the back, but I've been talking to you for 10 minutes. I haven't mentioned the name Tim Tebow yet. I think that's remarkable restraint, don't you think, Coach Urban?
Yeah, you might be the first. Very good.
Okay, I mean, really, I've been really bursting since I said hello. And I know that when we talked on the air on NFL Network on the Saturday of the draft, that you had not physically seen him work out, and that in the subsequent telling of the story when you were on Chris Collinsworth's podcast, that his subsequent workout you were not there for. So how did Tim get the opportunity? Can you walk me through that? Did he knock on your door? Are you in search of somebody to personify your culture build here in Jacksonville? Why does Tim have this opportunity is essentially my question.
I'm on his foundation board. I know Tim. We talk. I knew he was getting ready to go play pro baseball, and he did. He mentioned to me that I'm in the best shape of my life, and he can tell he is. And we had a chat, and I said, well, he said, could you have a couple guys look at me? And I said, well, obviously let me think this thing through. I don't want this to turn into something that, if it's, but I said, if it's confidential and not I'll let some guys look at you. And I showed up and I left on purpose, and our GM was there, our tight end coach and our offense coordinator were there. And they put him through a workout. They came back to me and said, my gosh, this guy's in incredible shape. He's a big athlete. Our tight end room has been struggling. Okay, and I think it did two other times. They had two other, they gave him some things to work on, and then they brought him back. And I said, what do they came to me and said, I think we should give him a shot. And what's the percentage of making the team? We don't know. This is uncharted waters. This is going to be very difficult. But he's been doing great. He's been doing great in practice. He's learning the offense, as you can imagine. He's working as hard as anybody. I see a good camaraderie amongst the team and Tim, and it's been good so far.
So what do you think he can represent in this locker room that you want to get across to people who might still be wondering, even in just the first few weeks, what your culture build is all about in Jacksonville?
Well, he certainly lived it. He is a guy that's as hardworking, as tough a human being as ever been around, as competitive. But the cool thing is, Rich, I'm finding a lot of that around here. I'm finding we brought in some guys like that in free agency. Miles Jack, Josh Allen, some of the core players we have, Brandon Linder. We have some good core players, and I know we didn't play very well. You can say, well, they're 1-15. I get that. We did not play well. I didn't say that. But we have good core competitive players. And I think, first of all, Tim's 1-90. And the thing that I've settled in with now that we have 90 in it, when you go kick the ball off, you're at 48, I believe it is. 46. And that's going to be – this to me is a tryout for a lot of guys. And he falls into that category. But to answer your question, he's working his tail off, as you can imagine.
Well, and I don't need to tell you as well what a compelling story, if you will, or figure Tim is, and the compelling story and figure that Trevor Lawrence is, and compelling story and figure that you are. Is there any chance that the Jacksonville Jaguars will appear on Hard Knocks this summer on HBO, that you'd let us in on something like that, even though you don't have to? What do you think about that idea?
Well, I got Miss Amy Palcic sitting right here staring at me in my office so I'll let her handle all those conversations. And Rich, you know me fairly well, at least. That
yes.
I think most coaches want to go in a submarine and show up on game day ready to rock and roll without distraction. But I also understand and respect the NFL, what it stands for, the network, what it stands for, and I do believe this is an interesting story here. And one of the reasons that I wouldn't mind the world knowing is that we have some really good players and some really good people here. And it's a great city. We have a great owner.
Well, and I know that we did see you in a spot where we didn't expect to see you this past week with AEW handing a laptop to Chris Jericho. So, I saw that one.
Charlie Strong, I told our team that Charlie Strong should get an Emmy for his. Do you see his?
I saw his reaction. He threw his hands up.
We only did one cut on that. We only did one cut. That's how good Charlie Strong is at acting. Too.
I saw that, and that's so. That wasn't a
just
real
laptop.
That's not your real laptop, is it, Urban? Really?
Oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to. I got to go along with it. Yeah, sure, it's my laptop. Good thing is we have another one.
Yeah, I've also met the owner, Mr. Khan. I know he's probably got more where that one came from. Well, that was just fun. That was a blast. I'm sure your whole family must have enjoyed watching you do something like that right out of the gate. That was fun.
Oh yeah, they were all over it.
Okay, and that's not a real play on the grease board behind you, right? That was something to throw everybody off, right? Right, Coach?
I did actually walked in and I looked and I said, wait a minute, is that, and then I started reading it. No, it was not.
Phew.
All right, Coach, thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. I hope to do this more often, and I do hope to see more of you and your team very shortly.
Hey, I really appreciate you, and I really watched a lot leading up to the last month or so, the 40-yard dash deal you do.
Oh.
I didn't realize you do that for charity, so Rich, you're a good man, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And hey, look, maybe if you need another tight end a few years from now, I can get into fighting shape. You know what I'm saying?
I'll have my tight end. If you want to go through a tryout, I won't be there, but you can do it.
Yeah. One thing, I'll just give you a spoiler alert. Your coaching staff won't talk about how great of a body I've got. That won't be the note you get back, but it'll be good.
Have a good day, man.
Take care of yourself. That's Urban Meyer, everybody. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.